is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 216. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Sitting here on a Wednesday evening, getting ready for the LA Galaxy, the defending MLS Cup champions, to come to town here on Saturday, our return to Q2 Stadium. A few days removed from, what some called a cathartic group session on Sunday, the ass whooping that was last weekend. I don't know about you, man. My eyes are forward, and I am pumped for this Saturday.
Look, man, I was going to come on here and be calm and collected, but fuck that. This is a must-win game, okay?
Okay,
and
pull a lever.
I might still be infected by the plague rat. I might still have some lingering symptoms like scurvy or something along those lines. But if you don't show up for this fucking early game on a Saturday, I swear to God, I'm going to lose my freaking top. You can't lose this game, man. You can't. Yeah. It'll be really fucking bad. So you better be ready to play. Okay. Catharsis. Let's go.
All right. Well, let me just drag you down for one more moment because, I was listening to our buddies at Moon Tower, right? And Landon was commiserating with JB about having to go play rec soccer after that and losing there as well. And so, look, I don't know if that was worse than what you experienced. I see on your face, you know exactly where I'm going with this. You were infected with the plague rat on our FIFA games. And it was pretty unique. You got to admit, through your saltiness here on the screen, that the fact that we played 3 different FIFA games with 3 different one-on-one matchups of humans on the controllers, and all 3 of them were 5-1. Right after that ass whooping, I don't know, man. I know you were down in the dumps. I'm sorry to drag you through that mud once again, but I don't know. You and Landon, you guys can commiserate together with your sorrow.
Look, that's how good I am. I intentionally lost those games by the exact score of 5-1 to remain in solidarity with my team and my brothers. You, on the other hand, you went the other route. You decided to be Vancouver. You wanted to assimilate. Not me. I did that on purpose, all right? And that's something that I was going to take to my grave, but now that you've exposed me, I have to tell the people the truth.
Okay, I got you. I should have done the little chicken dance celebration in front of you that Brian White was doing on that 5th goal.
I would have punched you. I actually
I tried to score 6.
Yeah, you're not good enough. 5-1 exactly.
All right, everybody, we'll get into the Galaxy preview here today. We've got some last business day. The children going up north of the border to avenge us. The Academy kids may have avenged us already, and we'll close it out with the nonsense. But before we get into the rest of episode 216 here in the North End, just want to remind you all listening or watching on the YouTube channel that the best way to support the show is by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcast. That actually supports the show financially. So you can toggle on auto downloads wherever you get your pods, and that'll support us going forward, and you won't have to think about it. Again, you can go the extra mile, rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button also helps us grow the show. And you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on this episode, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords and the plague rat. Atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Before we get into the preview, just a couple of things that we want to touch up on. And I don't know, we may be having some technical difficulties again here today, E, as we sometimes do with the Wednesday episodes. I don't know if we're going to blame Debo. I don't know if we're going to blame the lovely Annabelle for working at home this afternoon, but we're going to push through and hope that everybody else can bear with us if there are any audio issues here today. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, and we'll reconvene before this deadline hits, but the primary transfer window closes a week from today, next Wednesday. So the time is ticking for Roto to make any further additions to this roster before we have to wait and kind of just roll with what we got until late July. So what do you think about the likelihood of us adding anybody, whether it's international or domestic, right? Because we have 3 senior slots, 2 international slots, and 4 supplemental slots to work with. And again, just a loose estimate on how much cap space there actually is.
I don't feel great about it now. I feel like you and I have both been on board with the fact that we thought someone was going to be brought in here before this deadline was up. But as we get closer and closer to this, it's seeming more and more unlikely to me. We haven't heard any sort of whispers or secrets or leaks or anything that have come out, reports from international outlets from the country of origin for players who might be international coming in here or anything like that. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I know that we've discussed intra-league trade, like the player for cash trade, I thought would be an option here because I feel like that might be the easiest way to just get something done quick if this is a bit of a time crunch. But without a proper estimate on like where we're at with the money in the coffers there, I'm not sure that I can put too much credence into that. So I'd say I'm feeling probably not likely that this is going to happen here.
Yeah. I think I fall in the same boat there. I do kind of to your point, right? Bringing up the rumors that we hear for international acquisitions, usually coming from the country of origin first, like because we don't have any of those international rumors starting to fly in here near the deadline. I think if there is a move made, of course, it's a non-zero chance that we bring in, a player from anywhere here while the window is still open. But it just seems much more likely if we are going to get a late addition here before we head into the summer months, that it would come from some sort of intra-league trade, whether it's for GAM, for one of our players, you never know, or just the cash for trade system that was implemented a couple months ago. So obviously we'll keep our eyes on that. But one thing that we wanted to touch on as well that happens tomorrow on Thursday, so recording here on Wednesday, on Thursday, the Open Cup draw for the round of 32 will take place. I believe that will be right around noon Central Time. So we will find out which team is coming to Q2 in the first week of May, but I am pissed today. And I am pissed to at our neighbors to the south. Harry, San Antonio FC loses to Union Omaha last night in the Open Cup. And I don't know, man, taking the coward's way out from coming to get their payback, because we're good. Once we get you, and we will, we're going to clap you back.
That's true. Delayed retribution is still retribution. So of one day, Harry, it's coming, brother.
Yeah. So you keep an eye out there on the socials for that pairing tomorrow. And I think we'll get the bracket set, so we'll know who our potential, if we advance out of that round of 32 match at the beginning of May, I think we'll know our potential opponents for the round of 16 as well. So we'll cover all of that on Sunday's episode. You can keep your eyes peeled for that tomorrow. Let's get into this Galaxy match here, E. And like, if we didn't need to win this game already, this is a spicy fucking matchup, dude. Like, let's go back through the last 3 meetings between these two teams, right? Because that is the number of games we've played against the Galaxy since the Diego Fagundes trade, right? So you and I both remember the 3-3 draw out there in late September, weather delayed, just a few fans left in the stands, most of them congregated in the south end, up 3-1, everybody's partying, 89th minute, goal, stoppage time, equalizer. Everybody leaves with a draw that felt like one of the worst losses of the season, even though you still pulled a point from it. I mean, that collapse is one of, I think, for me, one of the all-time collapses in club history. But then we meet up with them, right? A new look LA Galaxy at the beginning of 2024. I believe they were sitting at the top of the Western Conference table coming into Q2 right around this time last year. It was late April when Austin upset the LA Galaxy, the first place Galaxy at the time, 2-0. One of the more complete performances in a year that didn't have a ton of them in 2024 for Austin FC. But like, you remember the beautiful connection between, I believe it was Hader and Diego for the first goal. And then Alex Rings, maybe his play of the season with that clean slide tackle, pops right up, gets the assist to O'Brien, streaking down that right side. And he finally gets his goal there for Austin FC to open his account, and ended up leading the team in goals last year. But then the return leg in LA, or I should say in Carson, that was the penultimate match of last season, right? So we did come back and get that decision day victory against Colorado. But this one, tempers flared, man. It started with Mark Delgado going to Buka's knee, right? In like the 60th minute. It was just following Driussi's equalizer. That was the first and only time that Buka and Seba hooked up for a goal contribution last year. So then LA gets the winner, right? They get the go-ahead goal, and in stoppage time, Biru takes out Ricky Pooch on like right near their bench, causing that whole fracas. Biru gets tossed. I think we can still have a debate on whether or not he actually made contact with Ricky on that play. I know watching the highlights back from that game, I have a renewed anger towards the announcing pair that night, which has just been a theme here lately. We're just the stock on Apple TV announcers is pointing straight down here in the North End. But it's not only that game last year. 2 months ago, we saw this team at Coachella, and we had the dust up between Alexander Svatok and Diego Fagundes, right? And then the social media fallout that happened after, where Diego's clapping back at fans from both teams. And I don't know, man, like this one, the tensions are going to be high between these two teams, not just because of where each respective club is at in their season right now, but also because of the recent history between these two.
Yeah, there seems to be some bad blood here, and I don't think they're going to forget about Biru's tackle on Ricky, regardless of how we feel about it. You know what I mean? So, like, there seems to be a bit of a bad blood brewing in this situation. Obviously, we have the Fagundes trade. This is not like some huge national trade that took place that like the entire MLS fan base is going to know about. But for these two clubs and their respective fan bases, I do think it has added a little fuel to the fire. And then you throw in that little scrap we had in the preseason up there at Coachella. And like, yes, this is going to be a highly contested, highly hot, tension-filled kind of match, in my opinion, with Austin looking to respond in a very positive manner from their absolute thrashing at the hands of the Whitecaps, and the Galaxy seemingly building a little bit of momentum, positive momentum here with their past couple of results, particularly the way that they got those things done. So, this is going to be one of the games, primetime, or not primetime, nationally televised.
It's a national game. Yeah.
Yep. So like, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of stuff brewing. It's going to be fun.
And of course, the defending MLS Cup champions, look, the Galaxy are, to pay them their respect as a club. They're one of the original 10, right? They have the most MLS Cup titles now with 6. And this is a team that I think it's fair to say the most globally recognizable club in MLS. And in a large part because of how ambitious they've been throughout their history, right? We have the designated player rule because of the Galaxy bringing David Beckham stateside back in 2007. And since then, they have continued to lead the way again over the last 5-6 years as the league expands and has a bigger footprint. Obviously now Messi is the biggest acquisition this league has ever had in terms of raw global talent. But the Galaxy have played such a huge role. It's not just Beckham, man, Robbie Keane, Zlatan, Landon Donovan. And that's before you and I became fans of this league. Like, we were lucky enough to see Chicharito play with this team. I think by the time all is said and done in Ricky Pooch's career, that we're going to be mentioning him among those guys, but maybe not to the level of a Zlatan, right? Like that, because getting your work done in MLS is a little bit different. But we know what kind of talent he brings. And this team has Marco Reus now. And I know he's a shell of his prime self, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not excited to go up against Marco Reus if he's back this weekend. So again, this is a club with such a long history of success. And it's kind of unique, I think, for you and I to have viewed the roller coaster ride that has been the Galaxy franchise over the last few years. Because if you think about, like, you go back to the Fagundes trade and that 3-3 draw at Q2. Like, as bad as we felt then, the Galaxy finished below us in the standings that year. And it was in large part due to what's that?
I mean, they had protests. They were going nuts.
Well, and I think there was a string there of designated player signings that didn't work out. Like Douglas Costa comes to mind for me as a more recent example. And then in those years, right, Chicharito got to play some, I believe, with Ricky, but then Chicharito does his ACL. He was never able to recover to a point where he was making an impact on these Galaxy games. And 2023, just looking back and reading through their history and trying to contextualize it over the last 30 years of this club, I think at the end of 2023 might have been the lowest point in the Galaxy's club history. They'd missed the playoffs 5 of 7 years. Again, still at that point, the most storied, the most successful club in terms of MLS Cup victories. They've won the Western Conference 8 times. I believe they've also appeared in like 4 additional MLS Cups. I believe they have 2 US Open Cup championships. For good measure, this is a team, again, that just has been so used to success and going through that period. You bring up the fan protests, like that was rock bottom, I think, for this club. Seeing their supporter section empty at the end of 2023. And while Diego was certainly not the biggest acquisition they made in this expedited rebuild that we saw, it was the first sign of that ambition, I think, in my opinion, because you bring Diego in there, you're willing to eat that massive contract to start building this elite depth in your midfield. Then you get to shed the contracts of Chicharito, of Douglas Costa, and you turn around and you spend $20 million to bring in one of, if not the best winger pairing in the league in Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsil, those guys behind Ricky Puig, or in front of Ricky Puig, rather, with Dejan Joveljic continuing to develop on his then U22 initiative contract, having guys like Gaston Brugman and Mark Delgado in the midfield covering for Ricky's perceived defensive deficiencies. Like, that was a fucking loaded team last year. And like in 2023, I think they conceded 67 goals. So while last year they still weren't an elite defense, I think they got that number down to like 50 or 52, something like that. And again, that was enough to propel them all the way up the Western Conference table from where they were the year before, and end up taking down the MLS Cup last December. Now they are paying for that in a big way because I would say Will Kuntz, right, is now the general manager at LA Galaxy. He came to the Galaxy from LAFC, where he was the assistant GM to John Thorrington for 6 years. So he has pretty much immediately, right, shown the results of how good he can be in a short amount of time turning a roster over in this league. And it's kind of the other end of the extreme to how we've seen Roto build out our roster, looking for long-term, year-over-year sustainability of the roster to breed success year in and year out. Whereas the Galaxy went all in for last year, and it paid off, man. As bad as things feel in LA right now or in Carson right now, those fans, those players, that club as a whole can just look up to that banner and say, this pain right now, it was all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going through their extensive history there, I pulled up all the players as well that they've had come through and everything. And like, of course, LA is a destination, and they've been around since the original 10 teams. But this is a very successful franchise. I like that. I like the way that they operate. You know what I mean? Like in regard to looking at it in the entirety of the league. Like they go make splash signings, they go get guys, you know what I mean? And they suffer the consequences as they have this season, but still, I mean, they're without Ricky. You know what I mean? Like how much can we actually judge this team without their best player, who is probably one of the 5 best players in the league right now?
Yeah, top 8 for sure for me.
He's fantastic. I dislike him, but I understand how talented he is. So
I love watching him.
Yeah. And then like talking about that winger pair that they have with Peck and Paintsil. Under, we saw him for a short period of time. He's great. I can acknowledge how talented he is, but like these two just scare the living shit out of me. Peck has one of the best left foots in the league. Paintsil is a speed demon and he's stocky. physical kind of player who knows how to get into the right place at the right time, and he's got good touch. Like, they are a very, very scary duo. Obviously, I think losing Joveljic really hurts because he is a very special talent as well. But this is a team that has some firepower, and that's why I have a bit of pause in regard to like how I said I was going to come on here cool, calm, and collected. We're playing a team with who hasn't won a game all year, but like, man, they do scare me.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to kind of connect me saying the pain they're experiencing right now, right through 2 months of the season. The Galaxy are one of 2 teams in the league without a victory. Only CF Montreal sits below them in the Supporters Shield standings. Montreal on 2 points, but Montreal started their season with 7 straight road matches and canned their coach in the middle of that. So like, again, it's not super comparable there, and I think it has gone worse for the Galaxy than anybody, whether it's around their club or outside of it, any of us really expected. And the big reason I mentioned, right, they pushed it all in. They pushed their salary cap budget to the limit last year. And the exodus began in the offseason, right? They traded the MLS Cup MVP, Gaston Brugman, to Nashville SC, right? They get back midfielder Sean Davis. They're so far up against the cap, they had to waive Sean Davis 2 months later because they could not make the moves required to get under the cap. They traded Mark Delgado to LAFC. We talked about that when we played LAFC, right? That was the first ever direct El Tráfico trade. And like, that's how desperate they were to break that seal and ship a guy like Delgado to their crosstown rival. Dejan Joveljic aged out of his U22 initiative contract. So all of a sudden you can't afford him. He became that first cash for player trade in league history, going over to Sporting KC for $40 million and serving the North End Podcast best ball team quite well to begin this season. They also, they had to trade one of their homegrowns, the center back Jalen Neal, who's a very young, very promising center back. He's in Montreal now, so he hasn't been able to escape the no wins plague that they've had there. But again, those are 4 significant names, big time assets that this team relied on this year. And I think probably Brugman and Delgado leaving may have been the biggest subtractions from this team outside of Ricky Puig tearing his ACL in the Western Conference Final and missing at least 2/3 of this current season. Obviously that is the biggest loss for this team, but to have Brugman and Delgado no longer on the roster, I think that is a big reason why we've seen them falter here so often early in the season. Of course they go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I honestly, you look at their roster build, I think they would have been better off losing either one of Paintsel or Peck. And I say that understanding that both of those players, Paintsel and Peck, are better than Brugman and Delgado in a vacuum. But like the leadership, the physicality, the defensive side of the ball, the fact that they're midfield players who have to do box to box work really, really hurt this team. And then you pair that with the fact that, Ricky's injured and not able to play. And the weaknesses are being much more exposed here. So, it has been a mass exodus, but still, I'm not writing them off. I'll let you get back to your spiel here.
Yeah, they had to bring some guys in. So even though they had to waive Davis after that trade, they did, right? You said coming into today to me before we hit record, I forgot they had Christian Ramirez, right? Who was a MLS Cup champion himself with the Columbus Crew 2 years ago. So he's slotted in there at the 9 in place of Dejan Joveljic. They added Matthias Jorgensen, who is also known as Zonka. He will be out this weekend, though, due to a red card suspension. But Zonka, more than 500 appearances across Europe's top leagues. Like, that was a solid addition, considering what they had to work with, or the lack of flexibility to work with cap-wise. And they brought over Damian Lassa's former Louisville teammate, Elijah Winder, bought him from Louisville City, 21-year-old midfielder who's playing kind of a rotational role for them right now in the midfield. You mentioned earlier, right? Despite no wins on the season in MLS play, there are signs of life from this team. They advanced in their round of 16 matchup in CONCACAF Champions Cup against Herediano. They should have done that. They took care of business there. They played Tigres to a 3-2 aggregate scoreline, and all 5 of those goals happened down in the leg in Mexico. So again, one thing we didn't mention, I think, too, that they missed Joseph Paintsel, I think, for the first 6 matches of the season with a lower body soft tissue injury. So getting Paintsel back has taken a lot of the pressure off a guy like Peck, off a guy like Ramirez at the front, because now you can't just shade to that right side, right? You have the dual wingers with a more than capable striker in the middle. And our boy, Diego Fagundes, is in form right now, man. Like, again, he's been a little bit up and down, mostly in a reserve role for this team since coming over in the trade in 2023. But dude, go like I would you know that we love Diego Fagundes, and some of the things we have his first free kick goal for the club, right, against Houston is immortalized in our intro video here every episode on YouTube. You go watch the goal he scored also against Houston last week, a man down to salvage a point at home against the Dynamo. It was just almost identical to some of those free kicks we saw him bang into the net here with Austin. And it brought up some feels, man. I definitely miss Diego here, even though obviously we've gone our separate ways, because he provided some of the best memories for us. I believe made his 400th appearance as well in that match. So, man, again, these guys, even though they don't have that league win yet, they're desperate to get it. And I don't know, man, like, again, I'm very nervous, especially after what we just saw our defense do up there in Vancouver and give up 5 goals. Like, the name value of this front line with the Galaxy, I'm more scared of than the Whitecaps. I know I shouldn't be, but I can't help it, man. I saw what these guys did last year.
Given the context, what we're coming off of, what they're looking like now, healthy Paintsel and everything, Diego looking in good form. We understand Diego's play definitely gets elevated when he's playing with elite level talent, particularly guys who can put the ball in the back of the net. And you got 2 very, very good ones in Paintsel and Peck. And then someone who, has been around for a while in Ramirez, who can also get the job done when it comes to scoring goals. They're really going to struggle in the midfield. And that's where we're going to have to be able to attack them and beat them. But they have elite level attacking players for sure. And like, I know that we're coming off this thrashing, and on the episode prior to this, I'm talking about we need 3 guys in attack, and we need Buka pushed up the field more. Maybe we have to slot a Zuni on the left and like try to figure out a way to get this offense going. But you're going to have to be very, very attentive to the players that they have on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't think scrapping our defensive mentality, despite the fact that we just got absolutely embarrassed and thrashed by this team, is necessarily the right timing of it. If we were playing a team, and I know they're just sitting on 6 goals. Like, I know that they have just, I think we're tied right at 6 right now for goals.
Yeah, both of us have 6-4. Yeah.
So it's been bad. Yes, it's been very bad, but there is context as to why they have been not the team that we saw last year. So I'm worried about this game. And like I said, to start this episode off, you better show up ready to fucking play, because just as hungry as we are to get a win and get that terrible taste of the plague rat out of our mouths, they know that the clock is starting to tick, right? When are you getting Ricky back? How long can you sit on not getting 3 points somewhere? And again, Austin, a consistently, not necessarily, I don't want to say disrespected, but like probably evaluated, where 2 crazy guys talking on their podcast that centralizes around Austin FC doesn't have the same level of respect for this team. So like, coming into this game at Q2, I don't know if they're feeling terrible about their chances here, particularly after what we just put on display last weekend. You know what I mean? So like that's what they're hearing in the locker room. This team just gave up 5 goals. They were supposedly the best defense in the league. They know what they have on the offensive side of the ball. I am worried about this game. And I have been worried about this game before we even fucking played Vancouver. And I told you about it. And I said, you better not fucking lose this game to the Galaxy at home. So we're going to have our hands full with this offensive attack, and we're going to have to find a way to generate some goals, which I do think we'll be able to do without scrapping our kind of defensive identity that we've had.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that is, we mentioned the Zonka red card. Maya Yoshida is also out with a hamstring injury here. The initial diagnosis for Yoshida was going to probably put him back for this game, but apparently an additional scan on that hamstring showed that he needed a few more weeks out. So no Zonka, no Yoshida. in all likelihood, you're going to get a pairing of Emiro Garces and Eric Zavaleta back here. And Zavaleta, of course, a supplemental player. If you're looking here on the YouTube, we got the roster profile pulled up. And this is a team with 14 international slots. They've got their 3-3 build filled out. And I just always chuckle when I look at that 2025 GAM available, $0. Like, I don't think any other team in the league has $0. So again, you still see kind of the ripple effects of what they did with this roster last year and how they're trying to kind of recover and stay afloat, which obviously so far this season has not come to fruition for the Galaxy. So missing Zanka, missing Yoshida. Marco Reus, from what I've seen, is on the good side of questionable. He's been out, I believe, the last 8 matches across all competitions with a knee issue. And Mauricio Cuevas is expected to make his return from a hamstring injury in this match as well. But
I mean, they also haven't been dropping games to like shit teams. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like you get a draw versus Minnesota, you get that draw versus Houston, a down a man. You know, some embarrassing losses for sure. The 3-0 to St. Louis, that's bad. Opening versus San Diego with that 2-0 loss, that's bad. But like, you also get the draw versus Portland, who we know is super hot right now. So like, I just don't want anyone to look at their where they're sitting at on the table and just underestimate this team, which I don't think our guys are going to do. But like, to prep the listeners here, this is a team that can definitely do some damage, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And I know the numbers don't reflect that right now, but let's get back to it.
Well, if you, and when I say you, anybody on the Austin side of things that's involved in this match on Saturday, if you underestimate this team for a second, you're going to get beat. You're not going to beat this team taking them lightly, even in the state that they're in.
You have to, and I don't think we are, particularly with what happened this last weekend. But
that loss may be a blessing in disguise in terms of the attitude headed into this one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was concerned about when I was talking about us chatting about losing to the Galaxy here. I was like, oh, you come off this huge potential of win versus Vancouver, you get your first 3 points up at BC Place, and then this would have been the biggest trap game that we have seen in some time, coming back to play the Galaxy at home after dethroning the number 1 team. But we don't live in that world.
Yeah, sure. Well, and for us, right? Like, I'm very interested to see at media availability on Thursday, do we get a positive update on Ilie Sanchez? Do we get a positive update on Diego Rubio? I think both of those guys could be back in the mix. Certainly wouldn't expect either of them to start coming off of injury, but we saw the depth of the bench, right, be diminished last week. We left an empty spot open on the bench in Vancouver. And so, again, with the lack of performance of the 2 center backs last week, I do think we still get Heinzike in there, probably wearing the armband without Ilie in the 11. I expect to see Svatok back there, and I want to see Svatok back there. I think we can officially, at least for this week, just based off what we saw in the last 90 minutes, and going back to like the 4 or 5 games before that, where the back line was so damn solid. It was like 475 minutes, conceding just 1 goal with the Heinzike Svatok pairing. I want to see Svatok. And then you talk about the fullbacks and thinking about the challenge that they're facing this weekend. I think we're liable to see a similar defensive strategy to what we employed on the road against LAFC with Buanga and with Under. I think we could see those double teams come against Peck and Paintsill early and often. And if that's the case, I feel great about Owen dropping down. I feel fine about Danny dropping down into a position like that. But if we are going to once again call on Osman Bukhari to be one of those guys taking on a significant role defensively, he did great against LAFC. He was not great last week against Vancouver, and I don't even think we were asking him to do all that much of what's normally asked of him against the Caps. So, like, that's something that I'm going to be looking for in the early parts of this match is how are we treating the elite winger duo, and are we finding success? Are we putting enough pressure on those guys? Are we able to get the ball off of their foot and get it to the players that we perceive they're obviously capable, but they're certainly lesser players in terms of their talent, in terms of how dangerous they are once they get into our final third. I think the defense is under a microscope this week. Of course, the offense will continue to be, but now we're worried about both ends of the field.
Look, Svatak wouldn't have saved us last weekend. That's for sure. I want to get that out of the way. And we went in on Julio for sure, and rightfully so. I do want to see Svatak get the start here, and my reasoning is this. We need a more defensive look on the back four for sure for this matchup. The big three offensive 3 DPs should be able to feast on their midfield and back line. You should not need the full level of support that we anticipate from your Owens, from your Dannies, because they should be back in sort of defensive mode here in this game. Those 3 should be able to run rampant on their back line and their midfield in particular. So, to me, I think Johnny can handle Paintsel on his own, and I don't anticipate a lot of double teams coming on that side. Okay. But I do think that Biru is going to need some help with Peck. And it's a nice little Brazilian matchup for sure, but Peck left-footed, Biru left-footed on that strong foot for Peck. I want to see that double team coming. And like we talked about, we know Azuni can play on the left side. We are trying to fit Bukari into this, square hole as a circle on the left side and make him change a lot of things that he, which earned him the recognition, rightfully so, that he is, and the contract that he deserved to come over here to play for us. And I wouldn't be surprised if you potentially see those guys switch here, because like I said, if coming from my standpoint, I think you need to double on Peck. I'm not overly concerned with the Johnny Paintsel matchup, particularly as Svatak is on that side of the field as well. So there's going to be some changes coming for this matchup for sure. Yeah. And it's not just based on the fact that we had this ass whooping handed to us last weekend.
So you think if we run, let's say, same 11, but we switch out the center back, Svatak for Julio, that you think we'll go Buka to the right and move Owen over there to the left to be able to drop down and help Guilherme there with Peck?
I would prefer to see that. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I also don't think Ilya is going to be ready. I don't think Diego's going to be ready. Older guys, we're talking soft tissue stuff. Mm-hmm. It's best to be a little bit hesitant with their return, in my opinion. So, we're going to have to see a much more defensive approach from the midfield if we're just going to let those 3 DPs go ahead and try to get something generated versus that defense versus the Galaxy, who are giving up nearly 2 goals a game. So there is opportunity here. And like you said, the defense is going to be under a microscope for you. I'm looking at the offense. The gap between their offense and defense and our defense and their offense, I think, favors us, and we have to see something better from Vasquez, Azuni, and Buka.
I 100% agree there. And look, maybe I'm just drinking the Verde Kool-Aid still, as I typically do, but I feel like they're going to break through this game in terms of multiple goals for the second time this season. And we'll see when we get to the predictions how many goals I actually think we can bang home this weekend. But I mean, I'm with you, man. Again, I'm not going to call this a must win, but what I am going to draw attention to is just what the environment is going to be like if you don't win, and especially if you lose this match. If you give the Galaxy their first win, you and I know that this team is better than what their record shows, but that's not going to stop the zeitgeist from coming down with full force on Nico and on the new expensive players that this team has. Because, look, man, and I think we can all agree that it's high time for this team to kick it into gear and defend home turf. We already had a loss. We already had a draw. This needs to be a win.
I mean, that's why I pulled the lever too, very, very early here versus a team with 0 wins, because you have to win this. You really have to win this game, man. And you better show up ready to play. I keep saying it, but you better be on your toes here, because if you come out flat-footed, let them get a quick one on us here, and they start to get a little confidence going, and our confidence levels will then take another hit after what happened versus Vancouver. It could be bad, man. So, yes, I think this team obviously needs to get going on the offensive side of the ball. Here is a real opportunity to do that and get that done. Vancouver, with how they looked, how their offense was performing, it kind of went under the wayside. We didn't mention that they had 2 games where they didn't let up a shot on target. So they still were a very solid defensive team. This is not that. But I do fear their offense, and it's a healthy respectful fear of what they can do, because I've seen these guys do it. They're not the same team without Ricky. They're not even close. He's their best player. He gets everyone going. He raises the floor for every single player. So, like, you better show up ready to play, man.
Yep. There's no question. And I do think we had some good news. It's not going to affect this match, but we're expecting him back in about 2 weeks. Mikael Dessler posting pictures of him in training here, doing individual drills still, but looking very much more full speed, maybe some lateral cutting, right, instead of rounding his corners as he was last week in the video that Alex from We Are Austin TV posted. So hopefully we're also getting another positive update from Nico that Dessler is still on track. That's certainly what it looks like. I believe the caption that Mikael posted, "Work in silence." So he certainly is at this point.
He'll be a welcome sight.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll be a welcome.
Yeah,
sight.
he would be a welcome sight this weekend too. I love Johnny, but I think I'd rather have Dessler out there to deal with Paintsel. But I guess there's only one thing left to do, unless you have something else to add. How much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday?
Look, I don't have, I talked about their defense, but still we have not hit our stride on the offensive side of the ball. We can score on this team. I can't go over 2 goals for us though, because we've only done it once all season. I'm already crazy enough picking this team to win every single fucking week. So like, I'm going to go ahead and then also say I got to go 2-1 here. They can score. I respect them. I think they're able to put one past us, but you got to score first. You got to set the fucking tone for this fucking matchup. And like, again, we saw the physicality that Austin played with versus this team, not only in the game that we have the Biru incident, and then on top of that, the preseason where there's a bit of a little bit of a scruff there and everything like that. You got to be physical with this team. Those guys, Paintsel and Peck, you got to put them on their butts every now and then. Just to let them know that we're here. Nothing dirty. The Biru tackle wasn't dirty. So like, we're okay. But like 2-1 for me. You better show up to fucking play. You better be ready. I might not be awake at that time. You have to be, okay? My job is Monday through Friday. You better be awake. I will be 2 monsters deep, 3 beers deep, ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, man. I was gonna say it was gonna be a chore for you to get up for this one, man. So, look, I'm breaking the seal. 3-1 Austin, right? I think if we can score early, I do expect Nico to start to shift guys back more into a defensive posture in terms of how we progress throughout that game. But the Galaxy are also going to push forward then. And if it's a more exposed Galaxy back line, I think we can hit them on the counter a couple times as well. So a 2-1 for E, a 3-1 for me. I heard a 5-0 truck from Primo earlier this week. Yeah, he's pulling that lever, putting the truck into gear. And we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us back
at the corner
3
store.
points.
Oh.
Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day.
Last business day coming through like a truck here on episode 216. Yeah, cut you off there. What were you saying?
I anticipate this. I was going to say, if that happens, Primo, I'll buy you a beer at the corner store post game, brother. I got you. Okay. Just for putting out that Wuju into the atmosphere. But I anticipate this team coming out, the Galaxy, that is. I know we're into the last business day here, and we won't forget about you, Esito boys, but they're coming out on the front foot. They have nothing to lose in this matchup. They are going to be aggressive. So if you are not awake, you're going to get scored on. Okay, let's go.
All right. So, look, speaking of who needs to be awake, Austin FC 2 traveling north of the border, going up to Vancouver to take on Whitecaps 2. And this is a very winnable match. This is a Vancouver team that has played 4 matches just like our boys, but they have 4 points from their 4 matches, 2 draws. They won both of those PK shootouts. So we have a win and 2 draws where we have lost both PK shootouts, but it certainly hasn't been for lack of Marcus Alstrup talent there in net, blocking at least 1 PK in each of those shootouts. They have also given up 3 goals per game. They drew 3-3 against LAFC 2, lost to North Texas SC 3-2, drew Timbers 2-1-1, and then lost to Tacoma 5-3. So this is a team with a lot of firepower. They've scored 9 goals. That's almost double what we've put on the board. And again, you remember, 4 of our 5 freaking goals, I'm pretty sure, or 3 of the 4 came in that first match. Like, now we got to turn it up on the offensive side of the ball here too. And on paper, Whitecaps 2 is a pretty good matchup to get things back on track. We did get some injury updates. Coach Utley apparently does not think that the injuries to Micah Burton or Jorge Alistue are too serious, so they could both be available here for this weekend's match. Trying to find personnel data on this Whitecaps 2 team is extremely tough because I think there's only 5 players that have actual bios on their website. Some of the other players are just unlinkable, so you don't even really know what their actual names are, and that carries over to the FOTMob app here. So the one guy that I think we do need to pay attention to here as fans is number 42, Nelson Pierre. He is an off-roster homegrown from the Whitecaps first team roster. He's got 3 of the 9 goals here for Vancouver and 18 of the team's 69 shot attempts. So 26% of the shots, a third of the goals belonging to number 42, Nelson Pierre. I did see a couple of the names of their first team guys that we've seen, like Bavalina played a game for this Whitecaps 2 team. There's another one that was escaping me, but we could see some of those guys dropping down here if Vancouver is getting healthier this coming weekend. But ultimately, I think it's about us going up there and getting a result against a team that has been struggling mightily to begin the season. Again, you could look at our track record here so far and say we have been as well, but 5 goals for, only 4 conceded. The defense for FC To has also been very, very stout, just like the first team. So hopefully that plague rat doesn't show up there at 6 p.m. on Saturday. So this is going to be an Austin FC Saturday doubleheader. You've got the first team 12:45 p.m. at the Q, and then 6 p.m. you can flip on FC To taking on Whitecaps 2. So any other thoughts for you here on this matchup?
I mean, just the same that I've kind of been preaching here throughout this time is who we're bringing up, who's going, who's traveling for this FC To team. If you're without Jimmy and without CJ, I don't feel great about the offensive side of the ball. Sure. Alistue being healthy, that's fantastic. He's a very good talent. Like you said, Marcus Alshaw's has been performing well. We just haven't been able to get those extra points there in the PK shootout. So I'll take a more, I feel a bit better about this or worse about it once I see who we have out there for the FC To boys.
I think we'll have Jimmy. Jimmy stayed home last week. And to be honest, like, he had been so hot. He had a down game last week relative kind of to the new bar that I had set for him in my head. So looking for him to bounce back and lead this team to a result up there. Love to see Peter Grogan start again up top. Want to see Micah Burton back in action here. I think we'll probably see Irvin Torres with the second team, but again, if Diego and Ilya are both out, then maybe he gets another call-up. So that's kind of up in the air right now as well. But Riley Thomas will be with the first team with Dessler still out. So I expect to have a consistent back 4 there with Chiesla slotting in at right back. And then, of course, Van Ryn and Gomez with Ruben Bonachera out there on the left. So unless you have anything else to add, how much is FC To winning by on Saturday night?
Well, unfortunately, Wuju reserves are a little bit low, so I'm saving all I got for the first team. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and predict a loss here for the FC To boys. That's a tough travel, man. So I'm going to go ahead and say, like, we've seen this team can score for the Vancouver side. I don't know who they'll have, like you mentioned, if they are getting a bit healthier up top. Are we going to see some of these guys shifted around? The Bobalina guy, I just was looking at their stats real quick. I remember seeing him in. I'm a little worried here. I'm going to go ahead and say 2-1 Vancouver.
All right. I'm going to go 1-1 draw with a PK shootout win here because I don't see our boys going up there and coming back with nothing. So give us 2 points here. Let's get Marcus one of those PK shootout wins. Let's take care of our business with our attempts on net and let Marcus continue to do good work. So an unfortunate 2-1 loss. Wuju Conservation for E. We got Houston next weekend, so I'm with it. All
Okay.
right, 1-1 draw with a PK shootout win for me. And look, we don't care how you get it done, boys. We would love for you to bring back 3 points.
The best keeper in the world.
Louisville City and Damian Loss, they did not pull an SAFC. They took care of business in the Open Cup last night. 2-1 victory at home over Loudoun United. And to be honest, I turned this one off right before Louisville conceded, so I'm not sure how that happened. But the parts of this match that I did watch, dual screening between the NBA play-in games and the Open Cup action on Tuesday night, Damian looked very solid. Louisville got gifted their first goal. One of the defenders for Loudoun kind of dribbled off the back of his heel on accident, put it right into the path of the Louisville striker. The Loudoun keeper was off his line because they were playing out of the back, and so just kind of rolled it into the net. Got another one shortly thereafter and kind of cruised to victory here, but couldn't keep the clean sheet. Without seeing it live, I'm going to go ahead and blame the field players and not the greatest keeper in the world. But Louisville City moves on, 2-1 victory in the Open Cup. And look, I don't think this is likely at all given the regional nature of these Open Cup draws, but you know where I'm going with this. If we don't get San Antonio, I would love to see Louisville City come here so we can get Damian Loss in an Open Cup match. I think that would be a lot of fun, even though that's probably one of the toughest matchups we could draw is Louisville City with how good they still are.
Look, man, if we're going to get Damian ready to be in the MLS ranks, he's going to have to deal with some trash talk from the north end. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, if we can get him in here and I can give him a good ribbing, let him know he's not Bradley Scott Stuber, then I think that's the best thing I could possibly do for his growth and maturity to eventually reach the heights that we see him reaching here for Austin FC. So that would be cool. I also don't think it's very likely, but do us a favor. You guys do crazy shit all the time. MLS, throw us a bone here. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Bring our boy home for a weekend or a Wednesday, whatever it'll end up being. And look, I am even more okay with your Wuju consolation from a few minutes ago, E, because we've been avenged. The U16s, first of all, defeat Stuttgart on Monday, so they win their group with 6 points, advancing to the knockout round. Then today on Wednesday, taking on the U16 Whitecaps Academy team and the good guys, 1-0, come out on top, advancing to the quarterfinal round of the GA Cup here in 2025. I need to go double check after we finish recording when we get these games streamed, because as soon as they are, I'm there. I'm watching these guys. Look, we are 3 wins away from another trophy in the Academy ranks. I'm all in, E. Let's go.
I love it. I was on YouTube earlier just perusing, and they actually had a live stream of some of these games up. So hopefully, yes, we can get on the board here. But this is how you win a game. Classic Austin fashion. 1-0. There's no need to score 5 goals on anyone. Really embarrassed. You win 1-0 like a gentleman.
The gentleman's victory.
That's right.
All right, we'll close it out with the nonsense here on episode 216. Quick best ball update. E, I think I was very worried as we watched Brian White go 1, 2, 3, 4. I was trying to remember who has Brian White in the Verde Best Ball League. Is it We Are Austin? Is it Verde all day? Are we losing all the ground we already made up? Luckily, Moon Tower, 58 points, 26 from Brian White. They almost got the entire Verde pendant score in one player there with Brian White. So Moon Tower now sitting kind of in sole 4th place with that big 58-point score. They make up 20 points on us. We have 38, so we drop points. Verde all day. Phil West jumps back into 2nd. 40 points for We Are Austin TV. They hold on to 1st place. Soccer-wise, a respectable 39. So we've got a pretty clear hierarchy here below the top 3 that are all bunched together. Moon Tower in 4th, Soccer-wise in 5th. Verde Pendant boys, come on, fellas. You guys are counting the hours until the transfer window draft.
Look, let's get some Mazzuni goals this weekend. prop those scores up a little bit here.
Oh man, like Azuni's first brace. Can we do that? Is that too much to ask for?
I'll have to look at the Wuju reserves, but I could muster something up. I think I get bonus points for waking up at 11 o'clock or whatever on a Saturday. So we'll see what the reserves are looking like.
If we're taking off from my place, you better be up before 11 o'clock. I'll tell you what. We'll see. Sleep conservation needs to be practiced on Friday night, I think. Let's close it out with an update on the bets, E. And the picks, rather, do not go well. We have our worst week on the season in terms of the betting picks. Negative 9.35 units. Minnesota doesn't come through. Atlanta doesn't come through. Austin doesn't come through. And I think we only hit 2 of the goal scorers or the contribution picks that we made. So, look, we did so well in the early parts of the season. We're still plus 4.15 units on these picks. And again, if you are tailing all these picks, the mystery person that has yet to reveal themselves, E, you had fun on Underdog this weekend because the picks come through. The entry of the week gets you 5.77x your entry fee, and we are now plus 11.43 units on Underdog. Emil Forsberg, 0 shots in the first 90 minutes, E. 2 desperation shots in second half stoppage time gets us there in the afternoon window, and it just felt like it was going to happen after that. Azuni, 3 shots, he hits. Diego Luna, 2 shots, he hits. So we'll take the win however we can get it. So you're still up a little over 16 units, I believe. Actually, a little shy of 16 units between the Underdog plays and the sportsbook picks on the season. And you can come back Saturday morning here. It's going to be an early article with that 12:45 p.m. kickoff. You get those picks in here at thenorthendpodcast.com, and we keep it rolling.
Let's do it, baby. I'm excited. Picks have been the Underdog's been great, man.
It's been fun, man. And if you have been watching this, wondering what's going on with this Underdog fantasy, you can join in on the fun this weekend by signing up with Underdog. The MLS season is here. If you want to make some picks on your favorite players in sports, check out Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em game. You choose higher or lower on between 2 to 8 players, and you can win up to 1,000 times your entry. Underdog is available in 33 states, including right here in Texas. To sign up, click the link in the description of this video and use promo code NORTHEND at sign up, and you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick to get you started. So join the millions of fans who have won billions on Underdog. Promo code NORTHEND when you sign up at Underdog Fantasy. The link to sign up is in the description of this episode, whether you're watching on the YouTube or listening on the audio version. You click on that link, promo code NORTHEND at sign up. You get the bonus cash. You get the free pick to get you started. And then you come back to the northendpodcast.com on Saturday and check out what we're rolling with here in Week 9E. The U16s will take on Genk for a spot in the semifinals. I'm not quite sure while we're recording live if that is tomorrow or not. I think it is tomorrow because these tournaments are fast and furious here. So we'll be looking out for a potential stream of that match. And if we have no stream, certainly keeping our eyes peeled for the results. So good luck once again to the U16 boys. Anything else for you before we shut it down?
You better show up ready to fucking play.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, everybody. That'll do it for us here on episode 216 of the North End Podcast. We will be back on Sunday recapping Austin FC's matchup against the LA Galaxy, recapping FCito's trip north of the border to take on Whitecaps 2, talking some GA Cup and everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe. Between now and then, enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We'll do the same. We'll see you at the Q on Saturday and back here on Sunday for another episode of the North End Podcast. Until then, he's E. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.